Warriors Don't Cry, Chapter 3. By the time we arrived home from Cincinnati, my life was already upside down. I was living with one concern: preparing to take part in the integration of Central High School. It consumed much of the time and energy of my entire family. I could see it was consuming the energy of the entire city. Nobody I spoke with or watched on local television or heard on the radio talked of anything else. I was drowning in unfamiliar activities and sounds. The sound of the constantly ringing telephone, of people talking loud in my ear and expressing their views about integration, of reporters' urgent voices describing what integration might do to the city and the South, and of official looking adults lecturing me about integration for hours in closed meetings. Meetings. My life was filled with meetings. Boring meetings with the white superintendent of schools, the school board, with Central High School officials, with NAACP officials. For the first time, I met Mrs. Daisy Bates, a petite and smartly dressed, steely eyed woman who is the Arkansas state president of the NAACP. She seemed very calm and brave considering the caravans of segregationists said to be driving past her house and tossing firebombs and rocks through her windows. They saw her as their enemy not only because of her position, but because she and her husband owned the Arkansas State Press, a newspaper that was the sole voice of our community. The only good thing about the meetings was that they allowed me to visit with my friends, the other students who would be integrating Central. I had known most of them all my life. At one point, there had been 16 others, but some of them chose not to participate because of the threats of violence. It frightened me to see our number dwindling. Still, I was delighted with those I knew were definitely going. In the end, there were 9 of us. Ernest Green, the oldest and a senior, was a member of my church. His warm eyes and quick smile greeted me each week at Sunday school. His aunt, Miss Gravely, had taught me history in junior high. Tall, thin Terence Roberts was a junior like me, and a friend since first grade. He was a very verbal person who could be counted on to give the funniest, most intelligent analysis of any situation. I adored his way of always humming a cheerful tune when he wasn't talking. Jefferson Thomas was a quiet, soft-spoken athlete, tops in his class. His sense of humor was subtle, the kind that makes you giggle aloud when you're not supposed to. Elizabeth Eckford was petite, a very quiet, private person who had smiled and waved at me across the hallway at our school. She was regal in her bearing and, like all of us, very serious about her studies. Thelma Mothershed and I were friends who saw each other frequently. Small like Elizabeth, but with a very pale complexion, her wise eyes peered through thick-lensed, horn-rimmed glasses. She had a heart problem that at times changed her pallor to a purplish hue and forced her to rest on her haunches to catch her breath. Best of all, my friend Minnie Jean Brown was going. Since she lived only a block away from me, we saw each other almost every day. We had much in common. Both of us were tall for our age, and we shared daydreams, our worship of Johnny Mathis and Nat Cole, and our desire to sing. Carlotta Walls was an athlete, very sleek and wonderfully energetic. Everything she said or did was quickly executed. She was a girl next door type, always in a good mood, always ready to try something new. Gloria Ray was another member of my Sunday school class. Delicate in stature, she was as meticulous about her attire as she was about her studies. Her all-knowing eyes grew even more intense as she spoke, in softly measured words. We integrated students shared many things in common. All of our parents were strict, no-nonsense types. Several of them were teachers and preachers or held well-established positions in other professions. All our folks were hardworking people who had struggled to own their homes, to provide a stable life for their families. We shared many of the same family values traditional to all small-town Americans. Our parents demanded that we behave appropriately at home and in public. I couldn't imagine that any of us would ever talk back to our folks or other adults. All of us were church-going. All our parents demanded good grades in school. Although none of us had a lot of money, we had pride in our appearance. Most of all, we were individualists with strong opinions. Each of us planned to go to college. I felt comfortable being with them because they were the kind of people my mother allowed me to associate with. And after a period of being together so much, I began to feel as though we had formed some kind of group, an odd family of people with one goal: to get inside Central High and stay there for the school year. On Monday, September 2nd, Labor Day, our family gathered at Auntie May's house for the last picnic of the summer. She was Mother's sister, a wonderfully round, cuddly woman with flowing, wavy hair and a warm smile. A real live wire, she liked to play pranks on people and tell the kind of naughty jokes that made Mother blush and cover my ears. Her laughter and upbeat attitude always cheered me up. People said I had some of her feisty ways in me. I was certain my Auntie May could do just about anything. Rules are made to be broken, she said. If there's anyone who can integrate that school, it's you. You're just sassy enough to pull it off. Although I don't know why you'd want to go where you're not wanted, said Uncle Charlie, Mother's brother, puffing on his cigar. To heck with them, said Auntie May. Besides, I heard a rumor that Governor Faubus is going to send the National Guard over to the school. How do you know that? Mammy Johnson's cousin cooks for that school. They called to tell her where she has to check in tomorrow morning to get past the soldiers. That began a free-for-all about integration. It was just what I didn't want to hear, so I drifted off into my daydreams about Vince, the cute boy I liked. I pictured what it might have been like to have him pick me up in his new car at our old school where everybody could see. Later on that night, Grandma thought we should listen to the governor's speech on television. To our amazement, he announced that he had sent troops to Central. And then he said, they will not act as segregationists or integrationists, but as soldiers called to active duty to carry out their assigned tasks. Then he spoke the words that made chills creep up and down my spine. But I must state here in all sincerity that it is in my opinion, yes, even a conviction, that it will not be possible to restore or maintain order and protect the lives and property of the citizens if forcible integration is carried out tomorrow in the schools of this community. The governor has finally flipped his wig, Mother Lois said, glaring at the moon-faced man on the TV screen. On the night of the governor's speech, the phone didn't stop ringing. One caller said he knew our address and would be right over to bomb the house. Grandma went directly to her room where she took the shotgun she called Mr. Higginbottom from its leather case in the back of her closet. That night, she set up her guard post near the window to the side yard where she thought we were most vulnerable. She sat in her rocking chair beside the antique mahogany end table given her by her mother. After a moment for contemplation and prayer, she stretched her embroidery work tightly over its hoop. With her needles and threads, she settled down for the night with Mr. Higginbottom across her lap. She sat as erect as those heroic soldiers I'd seen in magazine pictures. As I tried to fall asleep, I could hear Grandma rocking back and forth in her chair, singing hymns that must have given her the strength to stay alert all night. That night, in my diary, I wrote to God, maybe going to Central High isn't such a good idea after all. It is costing my family a lot of agony and energy, and I haven't even attended one day yet. Will Grandma always have to sit up guarding us? She can't go on sitting there forever. What will become of us? Maybe I should start my plan for moving to Cincinnati. Please give me some sign of what I am to do. Late Monday evening, the shrill ring of the phone awakened me. Mother took the call from the NAACP telling us not to attend school the next day, Tuesday. We were to wait until we were notified before going to Central. Early the next morning, I caught Grandmother nodding at her guard post as I went out to pick up the newspaper. The headlines told the story. Faubus calls National Guard to keep schools segregated. Troops take over at Central High. Black people told to wait. Arkansas Gazette, Tuesday, September 3rd, 1957. Tuesday afternoon, school superintendent Virgil Blossom called a meeting of the 9 of us students and our folks. During that meeting, the tall, stocky, grim-faced Blossom breathlessly instructed our parents not to come to school with us the next day. It will be easier to protect the children if adults aren't there, he said. The looks on the faces of the adults told me they were all frightened. Not one of them seemed certain of what they were doing. As we arrived home, the man on the radio explained Federal Judge Ronald Davies' ruling, ordering integrated classes to begin on Wednesday. The phone was ringing off the hook. Our minister said some of the church members were forming a group made up of people from several churches. They would pray and work for peace in the city. At the same time, he said they would be ready to help us if we needed it. The call just after midnight from the NAACP didn't really disturb us because we were already receiving a series of late night calls from segregationists who were loud and vulgar in their views. Mrs. Bates said we would meet at 12th and Park. The school was between 14th and 16th on Park. Perhaps we would be accompanied by several ministers. Some of them would be white. She named Reverend Dunbar Ogden, Jr., the white president of the Interracial Ministerial Alliance, and two of our ministers, Reverend Z. Driver of the African Methodist Episcopal Church and Reverend Harry Bass of the Methodist Episcopal Church. Judge orders integration. Arkansas Gazette, Tuesday, September 3rd, 1957. Dear Diary, it's happening today. What I'm afraid of most is that they won't like me and integration won't work and Little Rock won't become like Cincinnati, Ohio. By Wednesday morning, September 4th, I could hardly believe it was really happening. I was going to Central High School. As I prepared breakfast before leaving home on the first morning, Grandmother India stood over my shoulder watching while I cracked the breakfast eggs for poaching. Every radio in the house was tuned to the stations that gave frequent news reports. The urgent voices grabbed our attention whether we wanted them to or not. I'd never heard the news read that often except when there was a tornado. Hundreds of Little Rock citizens are gathered in front of Central High School awaiting the arrival of the black children. We're told people have come from as far away as Mississippi, Louisiana, and Georgia to join forces to halt integration. Grandma took my hand as she started the blessing, asking the Lord to protect me. I closed my eyes, but not even the breakfast blessing could halt the thoughts buzzing through my mind. As we ate, I hoped no one noticed that I pushed my food about my plate because my stomach didn't want breakfast. Mother spoke my name softly, and I looked up at her. You don't have to integrate this school. Your grandmother and I will love you no matter what you decide. But I have no choice if we're going to stay in Little Rock, I said. I couldn't stop hoping that integrating Central High School was the first step to making Little Rock just like Cincinnati, Ohio. Besides, we had been told students of Little Rock's richest and most important white families attended there. They were also probably very smart. As soon as those students got to know us, I had total faith they would realize how wrong they had been about our people. A lot has changed in the 2 years since you signed up to go to Central. You were younger then, Mother said with a frown on her face. Maybe it was a hasty decision, a decision we'll all regret. Before Mama Lois could say another word, the phone rang. Conrad raced to answer, but Mother was there first. Keep your seat, young man, as she held the phone to her ear. She stood motionless and silent, and her face grew ashen and drawn. Then she slowly replaced the receiver in its cradle and said, It's time to go.